Hi guys, it's Kelly. This is page 4 of my mixed media process series. It's my 28-page mini art journal. And this one's called Discover Imperfection Every Day. And I did a video not too long ago where I showed you how to make those really pretty fall leaves. And this is how I use them. A lot of times I make some kind of embellishment and people are like, well, that's really cool, but what are you going to do with it? So this is what I'm doing with those leaves that I made. And there's a tutorial called How to Make Fall Leaves. And you should check it out, and I'll try and link it to this video as well. But what I did was I wanted to use some scraps, and those are some scraps left over from the canvas that I did not too long ago. Really pretty paper. And I just had little strips here and there, and I love to keep all those little strips to do things like this with. And what I decided to do, I knew I was going to be using some wet medium in this, so I first thought, oh well, I'll use our archival, and then I stopped and I thought, you know what, I really like the Rusty Hinge Distress ink. It goes really nicely with those leaves. So I first hit all the edges of all the pieces with the Rusty Hinge Distress ink, and then I kind of let it bleed into the paper a little bit more, and then I just barely hit the edges to finish it off with the black archival. And I liked how that looked. It kind of made it all blend together, kind of nice. The page wound up a little bit dark, but it lightened up with some white spatters, and I'll show you how it went. So this is the whole process. Page number 4, I started with gesso, and then got all my pieces together and what I was going to use. And that is my jar that I decorated with Tresors Deluxe lace. I'm loving having that all decorated. I pull it down all the time. So I just wanted to use some blue hues, some blues and greens, because there's light hues of blue and green in the little strips of paper. I thought that would kind of be a nice contrast, kind of pastel-y background with the leaves there. So there's a couple metallic blues and a metallic green that I'm using. I wanted some shimmer too. So I just laid down my gelatos, and remember those are actually gel sticks. I don't have gelatos. Gel sticks were very, very cheap, and they're still just as buttery and wonderful, but not as many color options. So, and I want to make it a little bit too wet, but you know, that's okay, because you can just dab it with a paper towel and fix it. That's what I wound up doing. And I put the real dark blue back, and then I decided I should have kept that out. I reintroduced that a little bit. And I've been messing around with watercolors. I bought a new watercolor set. So hopefully, I am learning. I don't know how to use watercolors. But the gelatos is pretty much the same thing. And the watercolor set that I got is a Winsor & Newton set. It's the Cotman watercolors, Winsor & Newton. They're the tubes, and I have to admit it's kind of intimidating. I don't know why, I just a little intimidated by it. But I'm just playing with it. But using the right paper is the key, I am finding. Which I already knew, but you know, I need cold press, 140-pound paper. And that is not what this paper is. But once you gesso it, it turns into like a noodle. Because again, it's a recycled book. Just for those that maybe haven't seen the other videos, it's a recycled Happy Meal book that we got from McDonald's. That had some artwork on it that my son was not crazy about. And I liked the size of it and thought, ooh, that's like a little book of ATCs. So I'm going to do a mini-series. So the pages all kind of have to be gessoed because they have like the sheen to them. So added some green, and one was a metallic, I think, or maybe not. Added some greens and just a little bit of water. I'm just getting my background the way I want it. And it needed to be toned down a little bit with some watered down gesso. Just smeared on there with my finger. Well, hopefully one of these pages I can show you as a watercolor. Not sure. Probably have to glue on a piece of watercolor paper to it, but it would still be a page in my book. So Be careful when you dry things like that after you over gesso, because your gesso will bubble. Sometimes that's a really cool effect, but I didn't want it in this case. The texture is in the paper and the leaves. And the visual texture is there already with the color. So I got my Liquitex Gel Medium, and it actually probably wasn't the best bet because it didn't stick very well. I probably should have used like the Golden Gel Medium, the little bit thicker. So it worked well for the paper, but it didn't work as well for the leaves, so I actually wound up having to glue those down. And what I love about the Faber-Castell gel sticks, and same thing goes for the gelatos, is that once they're dry, you can use wet medium over them and they don't smear all over like a Distress ink might. And I did get some of the, because remember I put the Rusty Hinge Distress ink on each one of those strips, and it did bleed out a little bit, but I was okay with that. I knew that that was going to happen, and it wasn't overpowering. It was just a little bit, and it was just enough to kind of get a nice blending thing going. It wasn't enough to make mud. And I was as quick as I could be over it. If you're pretty quick, you can get away with it, but it depends on how much ink and how much liquid how much liquid medium you're putting on top. Because I am a professional mud maker. I do it. I make mud all the time. So I really liked that bluish green kind of aqua hint with that real rich reddish brown color. I thought that was really, really nice. And it's all about fall for me, because since we moved from Northern California, we lived up in Roseville outside of Sacramento, and we got to see the changing of the seasons, and it was just gorgeous up there. And now we live in Arizona again, and we can still see it if we go up north, but everything's pretty much brown. But the weather here is gorgeous during the wintertime. And snowbirds are coming down soon, but they'll miss all the wonderful colors. So still using the gel medium. Just gluing things down and cutting them so that they look like they're flying in off the page. And that's the one, it was right on the bend of the page, and it just did not want to stick down, so I was struggling with that one. But that gel medium stays wet a little bit longer, so you can kind of mess with it and finagle it. And I fuss over where I'm going to put things for so long, so I thought it was a good idea. But nah, I probably should have used something else. But in the end, it all worked out. See, I'm fussing. Where do I put it? What do I do? Where do I want to do it? And then I had little butterflies that I cut out of some of the spare pieces of paper. I wound up not using those. They just didn't go. And I made lots of those leaves. And don't forget to check out that tutorial if you're interested in making those. It's with alcohol ink. It's really cool. It's one of my favorite techniques. It took forever to get my brush clean with all that gel medium on it too. Fussin', cut it. Where to put it? Just cut it. I got some dead time here, so I just want to thank you guys who have left me comments, because I've had a rough go with just being sick for a long time, and had a surgery on my leg and had lump removed from there, but it's expected to be perfectly fine, no cancerous issue whatsoever, so we're not expecting to get anything back from the pathologist on that. But they're just sending out, just check it anyway. And then the terrible ear situation. I'm usually very happy and healthy, but lately it's been not fun. My ear is still messed up, so I was supposed to get tubes this past Thursday put in there, but it looks like we're going to do it this Thursday because there's fluid in there that just will not go away. And I've tried antibiotics and steroids and everything, so I'm not looking forward to getting tubes in there, but gotta do what I gotta do. So that's supposed to be this Thursday, but thank you all for your concerns. At least my voice is back to almost normal. I still feel like I have a cold. It doesn't make any sense, but hopefully after I get the tubes in, I'll be all back to normal and good to go. But I appreciate all your sweet comments and concern. Very, very sweet. So, I just cut off all the excess pieces of leaf that went over the edge there, and then grabbed my black archival and put it along the outside and framed in the page. I don't know if you guys saw it, but I did when I used the black archival on the outsides of the little strips that I glued on. I also did it on the leaves too. Just on the edges, it was real subtle. And that's where I'm realizing that it's just not going to stick down, so I grabbed my quick drying Aleene's Techie glue. I love that glue. It's really good. But you have to be, I mean, it's quick drying, and it does exactly that, so whatever you put it down on, it's going to stick pretty quick. Cleaning off the tip of my glue. Only takes a second, but it sure helps to keep things from getting clogged. So I wanted to add some shadows in there, but what happened was the gel medium wasn't dry enough, so when I first started putting it on, and I'm not quite doing it yet, but I will here in a second. There it is. When I first started putting on my black pit, Faber-Castell pit marker, when I first started putting that on and rubbing it, the gel medium was still a little bit wet, so I had to stop and dry it a little bit and give it some time to dry. Otherwise, I was just rubbing it back up. So, and I sped this up really, really quick because it's just a matter of laying a little bit down at a time and then smearing it with your finger. And when it was all said and done, it was just a little bit too dark. It was a little bit too shadowed. I don't know, it's a nice effect, but it was a little bit too much for me. So I had to lighten it up a little bit, and you'll see how I did that. I'm sniffly still, sorry. And if you don't know, you can only do a little strip, like I said, you can only do a little strip at a time of that, otherwise it kind of stays there. And then you got like a straight line on it, and it doesn't look right if you don't smear it. And I just did the edges, like the very corners of the strips. And then I thought, you know, it's a little bit too dark. I kind of like how light it is in the background, but it's still a little bit too dark. So I recently got some new twinkling H2Os, and this is there were 6 colors, and what I used is, hold on, Golden Nugget, and it added a really nice shimmer on the leaves. And I'll say again, for those who don't know, your shimmering H2Os, or twinkling, sorry, I always say shimmering, but they're twinkling. Twinkling H2Os, if you get them wet in the little buckets, little jars, make sure you leave the lids off and let them dry, otherwise next time you open them you might wind up with a little bit of mold in there, and that's disgusting. So don't let that happen. Just leave the lids off and let them dry overnight. Okay, so then I just really quickly hit it with the heat gun because I don't want to reactivate the embossing powder or anything. And then I watered down my super thick gesso and just did some white splatters. And that lightened it up kind of nice, I thought. Only took a second. And then I used the Tim Holtz stickers. And I added on there, discovering perfection every day. And called it done. And it shimmers nice. I'm happy with that page. I like it. So there it is. I hope you guys like it. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to like, share, and comment. I read them all and I really appreciate it. Thanks, guys.